Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Thank you so much, Ramapati Prabhu. Thank you all for coming. So this evening I'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, Text 69. If you could repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So if you have this verse pulled up, you can chant with me or read along. Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sanisha Pashyato Munihi Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. What is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Purport. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic men. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusati Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatri Bischa Kripasani Vacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So like what Mukunda Charna Prabhu mentioned, we'll be talking about how to be materially successful, how to make those big bucks. I'm just kidding. So there was a very wealthy businessman, and he was on his way to a conference, a meeting with other professionals. And they were going to discuss topics of how to be more materially progressive. But this man was so tired, he decided to stop at a motel. And when he was in this motel, he noticed that the curtains didn't match the carpet. So he bought new curtains. And then he noticed that the fridge didn't match the dining room table. So he went on like this, changing everything. And he was so absorbed in this temporary decision-making, he completely forgot about his conference. So is this success or failure? Failure. Srila Prabhupada, he also tells the story of a rich lady. This rich lady, she was very attached to this certain bird. And she took care of it, fed it nicely, gave it love and affection. And then this lady thought, to protect this bird, I should buy a bird cage. So she went on to buy this very expensive bird cage. All gold, diamond-studded, rubies, everything. And then she said, let me decorate this bird cage. She started putting bows on it, wrapped it with sparkling ribbons and so on. And she was so absorbed in this also that she forgot to feed the bird. And then this bird ended up dying. So what is the point of having a very luxurious bird cage when the subject or the object what it's meant for is no longer there? We may laugh at these situations, but many of us are in this predicament. We put so much emphasis on temporary situations in this world. And then we forget the sight, or we forget that there's a much more deeper meaning in life, not just to look very successful materially. So the word success is something very familiar to all of us. After all, who doesn't want success? Everyone wants success. Think of some of the people that you consider to be successful. What are their achievements in life? What are some of their qualities that you want to adopt in your life? So material success means climbing the social ladder. Just like these social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, whatever they still have. Everybody's looking for views, likes, and followers. And sometimes just to get a content that gets many views, they do a lot of horrific things, stupid things, in the name of success. So this brings a very deep and disturbing, you can say, characteristic. It's attention-seeking and approval-seeking behaviors that involves action designed to gain validation, notice, or admiration from others, often stemming from low self-esteem or unmet emotional needs. It's a deep-seated insecurity, a fear of rejection, and a desire to be seen as worthy or valuable to others. And it's a big problem with the youth today. They seek these artificial approvals from total strangers. They have no idea who these people are, but they're letting them control them. But the question, however, is success in what? What is the objective or field in which we want to be successful in? Someone may be a very successful sportsman, a very successful businessman, or a very successful student. So what is our standard for judging or measuring success? So we have some type of idea or conception of what success is in our mind. Just like a diseased person is known by his symptoms. So similarly, what we consider materially successful, they also have symptoms. Maybe they drive a nice car, a big bank account. Srila Prabhupada, he says that a person may be very beautiful, very handsome, but if they don't possess good qualities, they're compared to a very beautiful flower with no fragrance. And many people are like that today. If you observe their actions, it's horrible. But then they're very materially beautiful. I wish Mukunda was here, I would have said a joke. But so if someone earns a lot of money, we say this person is successful. If this person is famous, he's successful. If this person is developed in an extraordinary ability or talent, this person is successful. And so we often judge success by results, isn't it? His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, my spiritual master, would tell this story. He was asked to speak at this bank in London. And there was many successful people there. And they asked him to speak about success. So Radhanath Maharaj, he said, the way you measure success is GDP, gross domestic products. And this is the value of goods or services produced in a country's region. So Radhanath Maharaj says you're measuring that, but you're not measuring GDH, gross domestic happiness. And he mentioned how these top 7 countries, GDP, the leading 7 countries, they have the highest crime rates, drug addiction, divorce, things like that. So these are actually unhealthy symptoms of a country. And then he said, you asked me to talk about money or success. Radhanath Maharaj, I don't even have a bank account. He's a sannyasi. So we measure happiness by the wrong means, actually. And so we're all expected to deliver results. In business, we want results. Political leaders, they want to be pushed. They're pushed by the citizens to give results. Officers in any company are pushed to give results for the country. And doctors are pushed by the patients to give results in terms of recovery. How many months will it take for me to get over this disease and so on? Or how many weeks or months do I have left to live? So everyone wants success. But real success should not be limited only to delivering external results. And sometimes one may be considered most successful even when he is externally not. And I'll give a few examples. Sometimes even though the external results appear to make us very successful, we may actually be failures. So these are some contradiction, or they call it a paradox, a seemingly contradiction. And so this is very subtle, and this is something we need to think about. But according to our scriptures, we learn that success is measured not only externally, but in another criteria. From the spiritual point of view, material success may turn out to be a failure. And what is materially considered failure is actually a success. So when we talk about success, we're not only thinking of results, but what is the most important thing are the values and the purposes that drive our actions. So these actually are considered to be so-called success and failure. And if our actions are in accordance to Dharma or our spiritual nature, then it's a success, regardless of the external results. And we should keep this in mind. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Do not be attached to results of your work, to the fruits of your labor. And many people are attached to the results of their hard work, isn't it? Someone may work very hard, but if they don't get that promotion, they're not going to do it. So all of us are driven one way or another. I was on a walk with Ramapati Prabhu when I first joined the temple, maybe the first month. Maybe Ramapati Prabhu remembers this. We were on a walk, and my main service for the temple is book distribution. So he asked me, how was book distribution? And I told him I had a horrible day. So many rejections, I tried so hard. And then Ramapati Prabhu, he mentioned this verse to me, and it just clicked. It's true. Krishna is in control of these results, and we can only try. So thank you, Ramapati Prabhu. You encouraged me by reminding me of that. So this is difficult because when we do something, we have an expectation. And when that expectation isn't fulfilled, there's disappointment. So every one of us works for some results. The employee works to get a salary at the end of the month. So seeing results or having a goal in mind is not a bad thing. It's a sign of intelligence. We should make plans. So that is why sometimes we know that something isn't right. For example, businesses that cheat other people. We can know this is wrong, but why do we do it? Because of some material motivation. And a lot of people, they have this dilemma actually. Some people quit their jobs just because of this. There's an internal conflict. Another sad thing is that celebrities, in the prime of their career, they're on every magazine, every front page. And when they get a little older, when they get that wrinkle, when that skin starts to sag, no photographer or no paparazzi wants to take photos of them. And then they hide behind their homes, and you never hear from them again. So beauty is only skin deep, but in this world we glamorize the body. When you drive here on Grand Avenue from 5 North, you'll see this SD Botox. I mean, it's horrible. Like, you pay someone to cut open your face, to inject poison and all these other things, and just to get the approval from other people. There's a saying that we spend money that we don't have to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like. But this is what's going on in Kali Yuga, in this modern world. So real beauty lies in the person's character, compassion, sympathy, virtue, morality, and forgiveness. Showing kindness to all living entities is what makes a person beautiful. It's not the external appearance. How many here have read the Ramayana? It's one of my favorite pastimes of the Lord. So Lord Krishna appeared as Lord Ramchandra, and he appeared on this earth for various purposes. But he essentially came for 3 purposes: to save his devotees, to destroy or annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish the principles of religion. And he also came to taught by his own example. And he taught how an ideal human being should be. And Lord Ram's basic character is he was very noble. Lord Ram was the ultimate noble person if you study his life in the Ramayana. It's interesting to know how the Ramayana was written. There was a great sage named Valmiki, and he was absorbed in his meditation, and he was asking, who is that ideal, perfect human being? What type of qualities should a person imbibe? And in this deep meditation, his guru, Narada Muni, he appeared. And understanding his mood, he asked Valmiki, "My dear sage, what is that you're thinking of?" Sometimes the guru knows that there's something troubling the disciple's mind. And the disciple may be very humble, and he doesn't want to reveal his mind. But the spiritual master wants to help his disciple. So Valmiki reveals his mind. He says, "I'm wondering whether there is any perfect human being here on earth, living presently, not just in history, but currently living." And Narada Muni tells him there's only one person who is worth writing about. He possesses unlimited spiritual qualities, and that person is none other than Lord Ramchandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Ram, he was not just a human being, although he appeared in the human society. He acted like a human being. He spoke like a human being. But he's never a human being. He always remains the Supreme Lord. So Lord Ramchandra, he showed exemplary ways in which he dealt with the weaknesses of the human mind. One of the weaknesses in our society and many society is a lust for power. People like to have influence or power over others, especially those who want to attain a position to have political power, military power. They're willing to get power at any cost. Power is not an easy thing to handle in this world. A wise person once said that adversity is hard to tolerate. Every one of us has encountered some difficulties. Somehow or other, we tolerated it. But the test of a person's character is tested in times of adversity. They say just like a good wife, she's tested when the husband's finances are depleted. Is she going to stay with them or not? Or just like a hero or a warrior, his character is defined by his heroism. How does he do in stressful situations? So he said that although adversity is difficult, the true test of a person's character is when you give somebody power. That's why we see when someone gets power in this world, their mindset changes. They become proud, and their psychology gets disrupted. They become exploitative. They become a tyrant. And they want to stay in power. What's nice about the Vedic culture is that once a king reaches a certain age, he renounces the kingdom. Emperors, the king of the entire world, they renounce their whole kingdoms. And sometimes they even renounce their families. So where can we find a person like that? Nowadays, everybody wants to stay in position or remain in their position. They're afraid to be detached from it. So we hear and read in history that people will go to any lengths to get power, even if it means killing their brothers, their siblings, even their own father. A good example is like Kamsa. He imprisoned his own father, Ugrasena. But look at the character and life of Lord Ramchandra. So those who have read Ramayana, they know that Lord Ram was supposed to be coronated as the next king, as a crown prince. But the day of the installment, he was banished to the forest for 14 days. Imagine that. 14 years, I'm sorry. By his own father also. His father, Dasharatha Maharaj, he loved Ram with everything, all of his life and soul. So for him to banish Ram, it was killing him actually. And in order to fulfill 2 vows from his other wife. So one of the qualities of Lord Ram is that he speaks the truth and he abides by the truth. Not only did Lord Ram know what Dharma is, but he lived what Dharma. He lived that Dharma. And so to protect his father's word, he left for the forest without any hesitation. Imagine when you're about to be the CEO or whatever the highest position in the corporate world is, and then you're asked to be vanished. How many of us can tolerate that? How many of us would even leave with a smile on our face? But Lord Ramchandra, he did this. He left the kingdom in order to keep his father's word true. So to protect his father from committing adharma or falsity, he said, I will do whatever it costs to protect your vow. This is another qualification of a good son. Nowadays, children, they are very disrespectful to even their own parents. And sadly, I was one of those persons. Before I became a devotee, I hope my mom is not listening, but I never hugged my mother. I never even told her I loved her. Our relationship was very strained. But when I became a devotee, I asked my spiritual master one time, how should I preach to my parents? And he cut me off very sharply. He said, you can't. He said, set by good examples. So actions speak louder than words. So anyway, long story short, whenever I visit my mother, she's so happy to see me now. But 10 years ago, 6 years ago, I couldn't even imagine this. But now this is normal to families now. They say that natural allies are now becoming enemies. Husband and wife, brother and sister, parents and siblings, and so on. But Lord Ram, he showed what it's like to be a perfect king, a perfect son, a perfect brother, a perfect husband, and a perfect friend. Lord Ram left without hesitation, no bitterness, no frustration. And he did not blame his stepmother. Imagine that. The qualities of Lord Ram are very amazing. And Lord Ram, he considered to be providence or destiny. See, success and failure, happiness and distress, pleasure and pain, fame and infamy comes from the result of destiny. And destiny is nothing but the results of our karma, or actions we have performed in previous lives, even in this life. Just like a shadow follows us wherever we go, our karma will follow us. So we cannot run away from our karma. But this is something that the Western world needs to understand. It says that a calf out of a large herd, they know exactly who their mother is. So similarly, without fail, without any mistake, our karma will seek us out like a guided missile. So Yamaraj and everyone else, the Devatas, they're keeping track of our actions. And what's even better, at least for devotees, is that Krishna is in the heart and is taking down notes, whatever we're doing also. See, it's foolish to understand. Another problem that I had was that whenever I went to church, I'm not blaming any other faith or religion, but when one goes to church on a Sunday, everyone's very holy, everyone's very friendly. But after the sermon, everyone's honking their horns, using the middle finger, cursing people out, smoking, drinking, right after church. But when I came to this temple, I was telling one of the devotees here that the devotees are very sincere. This whole Krishna consciousness becomes their lifestyle. They wake up every morning to greet the deities. They honor our spiritual master. And then we have class, we have prasadam, and then we continue doing our services. It's not just once a week. So we shouldn't be like this type of religious people who come to the temple only once a week. And then we do all this other nonsense on the side. So suffering is understood to be the result of impious or sinful activities. And when we perform adharma or against religious conduct, we are creating another cycle of bad reactions. So Lord Ram, he knew this. It was the working of destiny. And the proper dharmic thing for me to do is to accept it in an equipoised way. And he had no hatred in his heart. See, a lot of people, they like to play the victim role when bad things happen. I'm such a good person. Why me? And then they start blaming others. They start blaming God, but they never blame themselves. So Lord Ram, he didn't blame anyone. He did not blame his stepmother, but he felt only affection towards his stepmother. So imagine this scene. Lord Ram was to be anointed the crown prince the next day. He was very much loved by the citizens. Everyone loved Lord Ram. They wanted him to be their king. Ministers, sages, brahmanas, the leading businessmen were consulted, and they all agreed that Lord Ram was qualified to be the king. Everything was set, and in one night, everything changed. It's very dramatic, actually. So Lord Ram, although he had comfort, respect, resources, luxury, opulence of the kingdom, all of a sudden he had to go into exile. If any other person was to be put in this situation, they would be shocked, disturbed, traumatized. They would need counseling. Everything was taken away in one night, in one day. But Lord Ram, he was completely calm, and he considered the situation deeply. See, now this phrase of think before you act, it's not very popular now. No one exercises this. They do, just do it. Do whatever you feel is good for you. But they don't contemplate on the circumstances. And he concluded that this is the right thing for me to do. This is the virtuous thing for me to do. When nobody likes you, it's not hard to leave and go, isn't it? When you're not appreciated in a community, I'll just leave. It's not so difficult. But if everybody loves you, everyone wants you to stay, and it is your right to stay, your birthright. And if you're qualified in every respect, and if you're told suddenly to leave, it's not easy. To Lord Ram, the idea of success in life was not merely to sit on the throne and to be king. For any prince, success means to become the king. And to not be on the throne is a sign of failure. So from this standpoint, some of us may see Lord Ram as a failure, materialistic people that do not understand the Lord's plans. And people may argue like that. But in actuality, we consider his actions and behavior to be success. If he had occupied the throne against the laws of Dharma, then it would be failure. If he argued with his father, no, this is my right to be the king, then what is the good character of Lord Ram? And another good lesson is that his younger brother Bharat, he also demonstrated what real success is. Here is someone whose mother had schemed and manipulated the king. And Bharat, he loved Ram more than himself. This is his brother. He wanted Ram and only Ram to be king. And when he learned what had happened, he was so furious with his mother. He reprimanded her like anything. He said, I refuse to accept the throne. Now, if you're second in line for the throne and the first person is out of the way, someone would be jubilant. But Bharat, he was a very good brother. He immediately left to where Lord Ram was staying, and he begged him. He requested him, pleaded with him, please come back. And Lord Ram told Bharat, the most important thing is dharma, or duty. Herein lies our success. Lord Ram was teaching Bharat how to be a proper king. See, a king is judged by the citizens' love for him. A real leader treats his subjects like if they were his own children. It's not that, let's go fight this war, you guys are all on the front line and I stay back. That's not a leader. So Ram gave him many instructions on how to rule the kingdom, and still Bharat refused. Lord Ram gave him permission to rule the king, but Bharat, he still refused. Does anyone know what Bharat brought with him when he saw Lord Ramchandra? Shoes, sandals. He brought sandals with him, and he told Ram, please wear this once. And what did Bharat do with these sandals? See, all of you guys are right. The first thing he did was place it on his head. And then he put these slippers, sandals, shoes on the throne. He placed them on the throne, and Bharat didn't live in Ayodhya. He actually stayed on the outskirts of Ayodhya. And as far as he was concerned, he was only ruling on behalf of Lord Ram. It's described that he knew that Lord Ram was sleeping on the ground. So what did Bharat do? He digged 1 inch lower, just so he could be lower than Lord Ram. And for 14 years, he dressed in tree bark. He didn't dress the opulence of a king, and he ate only food found in the forest. And he underwent through all the austerities that Lord Ram went through in the forest. So today we see that people struggle and fight for the position or for the throne, and children fighting with one another for the inheritance of their parents. Offsprings and siblings fight with one another bitterly for property of their parents. So much greed and so much selfishness. Because of the modern conception is to get more money, more property is success. But this is the wrong impression that people have. And therefore anything that can bring power, money, more enjoyment, more prestige, these are considered signs of success in modern society. And Dharma is nowhere to be found. So living a life of virtue, adhering to Dharma, is the standard of success, even if it means going through reversals in life. Many devotees that have joined this movement, they actually had to fight against their own family sometimes. My spiritual master, I think he said it took his mother like 5 or 8 years to just come around, or maybe his own father. And his mother sat across the street from here, and she said, I'm going to fast until you come back home. So Arjuna's dilemma in the Bhagavad Gita is very relevant to devotees' lives. If devotional service was so easy, it wouldn't be worth it. One devotee asked me, what attracted you to Krishna consciousness? Is it the philosophy? Is it the prasadam? I said, no, it's the 4 regulative principles. Because growing up in the West, this is normal. Eating meat, intoxication, Srila Prabhupada would say women hunting, gambling. These are norms in the West. So when I learned that these are the 4 do nots, I said, wow, this is a good challenge. So this is what attracted me, is to live a life of virtue, or try to live a life of purity. So how many people today would give priority to Dharma or virtue over material attainments and acquisitions? Not many, only a few. So we need a shift in thinking of what constitutes success. Lord Ram was not only detached from power, but even with the absence of power, he was not disturbed. And when he returned after the 14 years and ruled, he remained exactly as he was in the forest. That power never went to his head. He never became arrogant. He remained humble as before, and he never changed. So even in our lives, if we see Lord Ram's examples as a shining light in this times of difficulty and challenges, we can find success. One great king, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was asked a question, what is the best form of happiness? Does anybody know what Yudhishthira Maharaj said?
He said something like, if we can live in our own means and do our own stuff, ourselves, everything, that's to be content.
Okay, perfect. He said contentment and satisfaction is the best of happiness. But no one is taught this, to be satisfied with what we have. See, what we're doing is that we're trying to work very hard to change our course of destiny. Srila Prabhupada, he mentions how there was a doctor, a very, materially, and then there was an illiterate person in India. The doctor had a big PhD degree, this and that. And this illiterate person, he didn't even know how to write his name on checks. But Srila Prabhupada said when he visited this young doctor, he didn't even have proper utensils to offer his guests. He was so poor. But this illiterate man, he was writing checks, checks after checks, and he didn't even know how to write his own name. So that's what we're doing now, is that we're trying to change the course of our destiny. And when we invest our hopes and energies in material success, we end up being overcome by the three cancers of the mind: comparison, competition, and criticism. Everyone has now become expert in these three fields, comparing ourselves to one another, by competing with one another, and we criticize or find faults in others. So the secret to success is if one is not disturbed by the results of their work. They solely perform their duties without any expectations of the fruits of their actions. And whether failure or success, they remain transcendental to the material dualities of life. I'll tell you a quick story. There was one, maybe I've mentioned this before. There was an old person, and he was in charge of welcoming new guests to the town, to the village. And he would meet many new faces. So there was one man, he came, and he asked the old man, "How are the people in this village?" And the old man, he smiled and said, "How are the people from the village you came from?" And he said, "They're horrible. They're liars, they're cheaters, they have no good qualities." So the old man, he said, "Same in this village." So he entered the village very angrily, in a not so good mood. After some time, another traveler came, and he asked the old man the same question. "How are the people in this village?" And the old man smiled and asked him the same question. "How are the people from the village you came from?" And this new citizen, he said, "They're very kind, they're very truthful, and you can rely on them." So the old man smiled, and he said, "The same in this village." So why did he mention this? What is the lesson from this story? Can anyone tell me? Yes, Mataji? I'm sorry, Tapas is going to kill us, but if
you see a situation with a good eye, you will be seen good. If you see with a bad eye, you will be seen as a bad thing.
Thank you. There's this thing as the lens of principles of, or lens perception. How we see the world, we also see in ourselves. So if we don't trust people, it's hard to trust ourselves. But if we can understand that every one of us is part and parcels of Krishna, how each and every one of us is a soul, and we are eternally connected. My spiritual master said, what makes a family is a common father. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I'm the seed-giving father to all living entities. So all of us are eternally connected. And when we can understand that, there's no hatred. There's no unhealthy comparing ourselves with one another. All of us can contribute something unique. Just like our bodies, for example. The lungs cannot do the functions of the heart. The heart cannot do the functions of the brain. The brain cannot do the functions of the feet, and so on. And although there's so many what's the right word? There's so many organs with different functions. They all work together. So similarly, in this age of Kali, it's described that it's an ocean of faults. Ocean of faults. And there's 4... Who here has read Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam? There was this king, he was dressed as a... Sorry, let me take that back. There was this person who was dressed like a king. And how it starts off was that he was beating the legs of this cow and this bull. And this bull was only standing on one leg. So Srila Prabhupada explained that there are 4 pillars of religiosity in this world. Does anyone know what they are? Yes, Dravida Prabhu?
Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness.
So the other 3, cleanliness, austerity, and mercy, are all destroyed now. And this cow or this bull was wobbling on one leg, and that's truthfulness. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is such a wonderful book. It has so many wonderful lessons. It helps us to understand our relationship with Krishna. I don't have a set here. I forgot to bring it out. But if you would like to help us by distributing the Srimad Bhagavatam, please come see me or Dvijamani Prabhu. What we want to do is we want to distribute these sets to people. And Dvijamani Prabhu and others are doing wonderful. They're meeting random people. They have no idea who Krishna is. They have no idea what Dharma is, but they're receiving these books. So if you'd like to sponsor a set, or if you want to purchase one for yourself or for others, please come see us. And why I wanted to mention this is that in this age, what is that verse? Prayinilpai suha sabya kalawasmin yugejana manda sumanda matayo bhagya hi upadrutaha. That in this iron age of Kali, men always have but short lives. We don't live very long. We're disturbed, we're misguided, and above all, always disturbed mentally. I was speaking to 2 students the other day, and I asked this question, how's your mind treating you? And his friend said, Joe, tell him, Joe. And Joe, he was drinking coffee. He said, my mind is going 1 billion miles per hour. There were so many heavy things on his mind. So where is his chance of understanding Krishna consciousness? He had no chance. But here we are trying to give him an opportunity to live his life a little differently. Srila Prabhupada said, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to shave up. You don't have to move into the temple. But just add Krishna consciousness and begin to chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So although we may look unsuccessful or failures in the eyes of materialistic people, in Krishna's eyes, we're success. We're successful living entities trying to perform our dharma. Okay, that's all I prepared. Thank you for your time and attention. We have 5 minutes. Are there any questions or comments or? Yes, Mataji?
Did you end up loving your mother?
Yeah. Actually, when I moved into the temple, I did something strange.
Question.
Her, Mataji's question is, did you end up loving your mother? And I said yes. Before I moved into the temple, the last people that I told were my parents. I told my coworkers, I told my friends, but my parents, it was very hard to tell them actually that I'm going to give up this life of earning money and, trying to develop economically. So I told my mom, I'm doing this for you guys. And my mom, she didn't know what the heck I was telling her. And my dad, he was just looking at me. And for some reason, I just put my head on my dad's feet. And I just left. And I never looked back. So, but my parents, they came to my, they were very hesitant to come here actually. But I somehow persuaded them. So they came, my mom and my dad, they came to my first initiation. My mom has only been here once. But my father has been here maybe 3 times. So, yeah, Krishna consciousness helped my relationship with my mom. Yes, you have to hold it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice class. My question or comment is, how do we, is the distributing Bhagavatam special in this month or anything going on? If you or Dvijamani Prabhu can share with everybody, it would be nice. Thank you.
Dvijamani Prabhu, can you come up here? This is our Dvijamani Prabhu, a wonderful book distributor. And he'll explain the glories of receiving or giving Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. So in this summer, all the way to September, end of September, we're trying to make a special attempt to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam sets, because we're doing that for the pleasure of Krishna. And it is explained in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that if we do it on the full moon or on the day of Bhadra Purnima, and if we give a set to someone, then we go back to Godhead. We go back to the spiritual world. So this is a serious, very, okay. So it's a very enlivening opportunity for the communities around the world to participate. It started off by community in ISV, by Vashishka Prabhu. And now everyone's trying to catch up, and we have a goal of distributing 100,008 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam this year. And so far, in our community, with the help of devotees here, we were able to distribute 38 Srimad Bhagavatam sets by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So our goal is to do 108 minimum. So please participate. We take devotees out for training. We can show how to do it, and you can also help us in giving a donation for the Srimad Bhagavatam distribution. So that's it. Are there any questions about the Bhagavatam distribution or anything else?
Hare Krishna, I have a quick question. If you sponsor, no, it's okay. If you sponsor a set on that day, do you go back to God?
Yes, Vaishnava is asking, if you sponsor the Srimad Bhagavatam set, then will you go back to Godhead? Well, of course, we want to say yes. We want to say yes. Specifically, it says that if you give Srimad Bhagavatam set, so you can sponsor and you can also give the Srimad Bhagavatam set. But participation is very important, so there will be definitely a very successful and auspicious result for someone who sponsors, and what to speak of distributing. But sponsoring and distributing, it's also participation. It's also a great participation engagement.